things may have been developed in other places, like the blues and jazz and all the stuff, but nothing became global until it got to Memphis. You know, Memphis put these things out into the world, you know, rock and roll, soul, blues. It's something about the city that all of those artists were drawn to, you know, and so it's, you know, as a city we gotta, you know, we gotta kind of, well, we've been doing good. The past 10 years has been great. We have, you know, more landmarks. They're renaming streets, you know. I mean, there should be a, you know, the, you know, Isaac Hayes Road, you know, because for the longest we couldn't really see past Elvis. And Elvis is awesome, but it's so much more going on here besides that, you know. And we just have to learn how to embrace all of the musical heritage that we got.
I'd say me and Luther and Cody and Steve are unquestionably like a part of something that, at least in our own hearts, is important. It seems to resonate with other people. I don't think it will ever be like it was in those times I romanticize about, and it's sad, but it's not.
Yeah.
Life in general, in all aspects, has been so diluted, plasticized, and gentrified in all respects. That it won't be, and like Jim said, I mean, the days of rhythm section recording are pretty over. I mean, you never can tell what's going to happen. There could be a backlash. I hope there will be a backlash against all the bad pop music of today.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, if you look at the charts of what was going on in the 60s, there was some really bad, campy music going right against the Beatles and stuff. But if you listen, I mean, there were still real musicians playing the tracks.
Yeah.
And if you listen to the music of today that, like, they call pop music, it's really digital and devoid, and I mean, I'm not going to say that I can't get down with some of it, but like as a whole, and for that being the majority of what young kids are being influenced by, and it's devastating, man. It's going to be devastating to the human spirit, just in general, all across the globe. And it's the same thing that people always talk about with like Facebook and the internet. I mean, we're getting more access to more cultures, and that's a beautiful thing, but it's also ruining diversity.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to homogenize like everything. And so my Memphis pride, I mean, I wear the city seal on my arm, you know, I have so much, in some sense, Memphis pride about it. I also think that there's a lot of just absolute bullshit, like Memphis flag waving that goes on with people that's just like, yeah, we're Memphis, and it's just not. And it makes me sick. And there's people who triumph the cause of Memphis musicians that I don't really think are doing anything to help the cause, nor could they, even if they knew how.
Yeah.
And it makes me disgusted. I also resent it because I don't receive a lot of their attention, so, you know, that's just to be fair. But what Memphis music was those amazing rhythm sections and studios that just, I mean, they cranked out American. This is a lost story of American. It's so amazing what happened there and how many hits that those guys cranked out day after day. And it's like another Jim phrase. I mean, like, you know, it would just be a punch in the clock, but they would just insert the artist and do what they did. They just listen to it. They were, you know, maybe make the charts out and they just cut them. Like, and then it'd be, okay, next artist, insert that one, you know, like, but they had their sound, and that was the sound of, like, Memphis, you know, like, between the sound of the Stax, Booker T and MGs, and then the Memphis Boys, which were the American guys. Like, I mean, you won't ever recreate that. I think that, like, you know, the way that me and Luther and Cody and Steve all make music together has a sound for sure, but how that's applicable in terms of cranking out a bunch of records that are going to be seen in the annals of history, I don't know that will ever happen again. And I do long and romanticize for that to be true, but you can't go back in time. I mean, at this point, I'm just trying to look forward and see what's going to happen next, which for me, it's a, you know, I don't know why things wound up being the way they are. I think it's because the major corporate labels were always chasing the dollar, and it's just gotten more and more gentrified. And I mean, if you played bass the way that Tommy Cogbill or let's say James Jamerson, who was the Motown bass player, played on if you played the way they played most every session back then, on a session today, you'd get kicked out of the studio because the way they played was so colorful and creative, and it was so much a part of it. And now, if you play a session in Nashville or whatever, it's like, I mean, you know, like that's, I don't know, it's changed. The sound of the music has changed.
Well, I can tell you this: when I'm not in Memphis and I'm around other guys, and let's just take the Tennessee Kids for example, Justin's band, who are from all over the world. Most of them rooted in Philly. When they introduce me to other people, they say, "Hey, it's Elliott. He's Memphis. He can do no wrong." And then when people say, "Where are you from?" "Memphis." "Oh, respect, respect." You see it outside of Memphis a lot, and it makes you feel amazing because just the fact that I play my instrument, I'm from Memphis, on the outside means a ton to people, and it gives you instant credibility. Now, what it means when I'm here, I go out and see guys slay me on their instrument, and it really bums me out because they're so good, you know. But at the same time, I take from that, and you know, the influences I've had in Memphis are more so guys, you know, a little older than me that I just grew up to in high school and college, listening to on the club level, you know, and they're just freaks. And I go out all over the world to clubs or whatever to try to search music on my days off, and rarely do I find something that's as good as going somewhere here for $5 on a Tuesday night, you know, as far as just the level of expertise.
What is it missing? That's a hard question. I mean, it's missing the ability to not worry about what it takes to be on a national level. You know, there's so many variables. Like you can point it back to Stax or Sun, but the world was different then. I mean, the music industry is so different now. You know, you can't compare it. Whatever conditions created Stax don't exist today, and on a variety of levels. You know, so you know, you can't look back to that as a model. I mean, there's some people that say that the music industry as we know it, if you look on the long line of things, like say from Caruso, who was the opera singer, who's arguably one of the first kind of recording stars, to, you know, the 80s and the big budgets in the 90s and all that, that it was just this one little blip that was kind of an aberration, you know, and that all that income and all that media presence was kind of a fluke, and you know, who knows where it will go from now, but like it's very different. So the question of why and worth and how much, you know, how come this and that, I don't know how constructive it is. You know, there's a lot of people making a lot of great music, and what it takes to get that heard these days is a completely different thing. And it's just, yeah, I mean, Nashville has more of an industry for sure. It always has, but that's Nashville, and I don't really have an answer, honestly. I don't think there is an answer. And if there is, I don't have it. I think it's bright. Absolutely. The people that I know, I mean, look, you know, when I'm in New York, when I'm in Brooklyn, I'll often run into Andrew Van Weingarten, you know, who was a big fan of big ass trucks when he was a kid, you know, and I mean, there's no better. I mean, I say Memphis is doing all right in the hands of him, you know. I mean, he's not putting out, you know, his own line of this or that or whatever, but I mean, he's being creative, and he's, you know, and a whole lot of that was responsible, you know, has come from what he got from being here, you know, and who knows how it'll come out. I mean, he's young, you know, so who knows how it'll come out in years to come throughout his music. He's really creative. He's really talented. You know, there's plenty of, so that's on the high level of success, you know, quote unquote, measurable success. There's a ton of people making a ton of great music. There always will be, you know. There'll always be somebody complaining about something else too. There always will be that. But I think the future of Memphis music is incredibly bright. There's a lot of people that are just able to get their ideas on some sort of format and share it. So I think as long as people are creative and enthusiastic about what they're doing, you know, I think there's still a certain intangible to the city it's not time related. It just is what it is. It is Memphis. Sometimes it gets up and bites you in the ass, but sometimes it really propels you forward, you know. So that, I don't think that'll ever go